Okay, I'm back, and I was gonna add on to the last one. I literally had a few things recorded, and then I was gonna add them together, but there's just gonna be a 4-minute one that you'll see coming out. But sorry I haven't been uploading because it's been amazing out, and this has been a crazy week. There was prom, there was Easter, my brother went back to college, and all this crazy stuff. But we're back, and that's what counts. So this is Amelia Bedelia, Unleashed by Herman Parish, pictures by Lynn. And this is Chapter 4, A Walk in the Park. And sorry for the dog noise in the background, it's a little crazy in this neighborhood. The next afternoon, Amelia Bedelia met Diana at the park, just as they had planned. Diana had her dog, Buster, with her. But she also was surrounded by 9 other dogs, in all shapes and sizes and colors. "Hi, Amelia Bedelia. Did you bring any of your famous lemon tarts along with you?" asked Diana. Amelia Bedelia shook her head. "Sorry, I forgot." "I'm glad," said Diana. "Those yummy tarts drive my dogs crazy." Amelia Bedelia began to scratch the dog behind its long, leathery ears. They were enormous, like an elephant's ears. "That's a bloodhound. His name is Sherlock," said Diana. "He can follow any trail just by tracking a scent." "A scent," said Amelia Bedelia. "Can you find more valuable stuff like dimes and quarters and dollar bills? A bloodhound can follow a smell for miles and miles and find whatever needs to be found," Amelia explained Diana. At that moment, all the dogs pricked up their ears. Then they all turned their heads in the same direction. Amelia Bedelia and Diana looked too. Prancing down the pathway was a magnificent poodle. "Wow," said Diana. "What a cutie." "Are poodles your favorite dog?" asked Amelia Bedelia. "That's a terrific poodle," said Diana. "Do you know the boy walking it?" Amelia Bedelia was so captivated by the dog that she hadn't noticed the boy at all. She looked back at him, just as he and his dog came up upon a group of skateboarders at the top of a hill. One of the skateboards whistled loudly while another bowed deeply. A third yelled, "Hey, dog boy, who's your girlfriend?" Then they laughed, and they rode in circles around the boy and his dog. Amelia Bedelia felt bad for him. Those skateboarders went to her school. Tomorrow she would tell them not to be so mean to other people. "I have a favor to ask," said Diana. "Would you help me return these tired pups to their owners? They are your pals. They won't give you any trouble." "Sure," said Amelia Bedelia. "I can do that." "Thanks," said Diana. "I need to get home early. Tonight I'm going on my very first blind date." Amelia Bedelia didn't know what to say, so she asked a question. "Will you take his seeing eye dog for a walk?" A curious look came over Diana's face, then she began to laugh. "Oh, honey," she said, "my date isn't blind. He can see. We've just never met before. We have friends in common, and they wanted us to meet since we both work with dogs. He has a dog grooming business, and he's a vet." "Wow," said Amelia Bedelia. "If Buster ever gets sick, you can just take him to your blind date." Diana laughed even louder. No, he isn't a veterinarian," she said. He is a veteran. He served in the military and worked with dogs. Then he went back to school and learned how to groom dogs. He loves them." Diana took the leashes off all 10 dogs and handed half of them to Amelia Bedelia. "Here you go," she said. "These 5 live on Maple Street. They're very smart. They can let you know which house is theirs." "Thanks for trusting me," said Amelia Bedelia, "and have fun tonight." Chapter 5, Crossing Leashes. As Amelia Bedelia headed out of the park toward Maple Street, she ran into the boy and his poodle. Just to be friendly, Amelia Bedelia said, "Nice dog." "Thanks," said the boy. "You've got a lot of nice dogs." Amelia Bedelia's pack of dogs strained at their leashes, dragging her over to the poodle. The dogs let out little yips of greeting and approval while they were sniffing and snuffling one another. Soon their leashes were completely tangled up. They were wrapped every which way around Amelia Bedelia's leg. It looked like some dog maple pole dance, with Amelia Bedelia playing the part of the pole. "I think if I try to move, I'll probably fall over," said Amelia Bedelia, swaying from side to side. "Then don't move a muscle," said the boy. He let go of his leash, commanded his poodle to sit. It actually sat, and began to untangle Amelia Bedelia. "You must love dogs," he said. "I do," said Amelia Bedelia, "but these aren't mine. I'm helping a friend who walks dogs for a business." "I should hire your friend," said the boy. "I love my dog, but I hate to walk him. Kids always make fun of me." "I saw what happened," said Amelia Bedelia. "I know those guys. Tomorrow at school, I'll tell them to stop it. No, don't do that, said the boy. Having a girl come to my rescue would be even worse. But I could help you, said Amelia Bedelia. Who are you, said the boy. My name is Amelia Bedelia. As soon as she said it, she could tell by the look on his face that he had heard of her. His eyes lit up, and he said, Hey, I remember you. You were on TV. You got in trouble because of your lemonade stand. That's me, said Amelia Bedelia. I'm Charlie, said the boy. What's your dog's name? Asked Amelia Bedelia. This is Pierre, said Charlie. Charlie motioned to Pierre to come over and sit in front of Amelia Bedelia. Pierre sat up straight and held out his right paw for her to shake. Amelia Bedelia laughed as soon as she shook Pierre's paw. What a nice firm paw shake, she said. Amelia Bedelia wasn't sure what to say next, so she asked a question. I've never seen such a big poodle. Is Pierre an economy size? He's a standard poodle, said Charlie. Gosh, said Amelia Bedelia. If Pierre is a standard poodle, what does a special poodle look like? Standard is just a size, said Charlie. It means that he's the biggest type of poodle. It's his fancy haircut that makes him look even more gigantic. And kind of silly. It's why I get teased sometimes when I walk him. I have a great idea, said Amelia Bedelia. Meet me here tomorrow. I'll walk Pierre and you can walk these dogs. That way no one will tease you. Amelia Bedelia held out her hand. Charlie smiled as he shook it and said, It's a deal. See you tomorrow. And Amelia Bedelia walked out down Maple Street. The tiny terrier strained at his leash when he spotted a jogger running toward them. The boxer ran to a man hitting a punching bag in his garage. The bearded collie belonged to a man with a beard. The husky spotted his owner next. Last but not least was the sweet Maltese. Amelia Bedelia had a lot to think about. As she walked home, she wondered about dogs and blind dates and Charlie and Pierre. Most importantly, she wondered what kind of dog was right for her. Chapter 6. Skates Up. The next afternoon, Amelia Bedelia's mother looked out the kitchen window. Uh-oh, she said, storm clouds coming. It looks like it's going to rain cats and dogs. I hope not, said Amelia Bedelia. I'd hate to have a St. Bernard fall on my head. Besides, I have to meet Diana and Charlie in the park. Then take this umbrella, said her mother. Amelia Bedelia shook her head. That isn't big enough, she said. It couldn't save me from a falling chihuahua. Don't worry about that, said Amelia Bedelia, his father, even if it rains cats and dogs. Do you know the worst thing that could happen? Years of experience warned Amelia Bedelia not to ask, but she did anyway. No, Dad, she said. What's the worst thing that could happen? I'm glad you asked, said her dad. If it rains cats and dogs, you might step in a poodle. Her father began to chuckle to himself. Amelia Bedelia shuddered involuntarily at the thought of stepping into Pierre. That's the worst joke I've ever heard, she said. Her dad snorted and laughed really loudly. It was so embarrassing. Amelia Bedelia's mother rolled her eyes. I hope you realize, honey, she said, that no one enjoys your jokes more than you do. Amelia Bedelia arrived at the park on time, even though her mom made her drag along a dumb umbrella. She waited for Diana at the bench where they always met. Charlie and Pierre arrived a few minutes later. Hey, said Charlie, where are the dogs? I'm not sure, said Amelia Bedelia. Diana's late. I'll call her later. I can still walk Pierre for you if you want me to. Okay, said Charlie. Amelia Bedelia took Pierre's leash and then began to walk. She told Charlie about her dad's stepping a poodle joke. Charlie laughed, and this time she did too. Actually, said Charlie, your dad's right. A long time ago, poodles were trained as hunting dogs. They were retrievers, and they splashed into ponds and through puddles. That's how they got their name. Amelia Bedelia couldn't wait to tell her dad that. Maybe her dad was smarter than he even thought he was. Up ahead, Amelia Bedelia saw the same bunch of skateboarders Charlie had run into yesterday. They were hanging out right at the top of a long, steep hill. They were exactly where Amelia Bedelia and Charlie and Pierre were heading. The skateboarders remembered Pierre and Charlie, and they laughed and started to laugh and hoot. The tall one put his fingers to his mouth to whistle, but Amelia Bedelia didn't give him a chance. She did what she did best. She asked a question. How do you ride one of those things? She hopped onto the deck of a skateboard and waddled back and forth. Whoa, she yelled, waving her arms for balance with an umbrella in one hand and Pierre's leash in the other. It's super easy, said one of the guys. Just head downhill and lean from side to side like riding a wave on a surfboard. Suddenly, a squirrel bounded by, hopping down the sidewalk. Pierre took off after the squirrel like a rocket. The chase was on. Double whoa, yelled Amelia Bedelia. She squatted down to keep her balance as Pierre pulled her behind him. Pierre may have looked slightly silly from his grim and puffy coat, but under those fluffy pom-poms were strong, rippling muscles. He pulled Amelia and Bedelia along with no trouble at all. The squirrel raced ahead. Pierre, barking happily, chased the squirrel, and zipping behind them was Amelia and Bedelia. "Stop! Stop! Please stop!" She held her all the way down the hill. The long, steep sidewalk ended at a large circular fountain, with a round pool that was deep enough for wading. In the center was a statue of a mermaid that spit water into the sky. The mermaid reminded Amelia and Bedelia of her mom spitting out water at the dinner table. Even though she was scared, Amelia and Bedelia started to giggle. Then she stopped. Amelia and Bedelia was going so fast she couldn't jump off. She wished her mom could help her now. She fell, she'd be one giant scab. She wished she had asked the skateboarder another question. How do you stop? The squirrel zigzagged furiously, but kept heading for the fountain, with Pierre hot on his tail. Amelia and Bedelia holding on for dear life. She leaned forward, from side to side, twisting and turning to keep her balance. Amelia and Bedelia heard shouting. She looked over her shoulder and saw Charlie was leading the pack of skateboarders, who were cheering her on. "Look at her, she's a carving expert. What a natural. She'll get hurt," yelled Charlie. Just then the squirrel darted to the left. So did Pierre, yanking Leashes and Amelia and Bedelia's hand. Now she was heading straight for the fountain. Amelia and Bedelia leaned back. Pop went her umbrella as it opened behind her. She began to slow her down. The front wheel of the skateboard jumped up onto the rim of the fountain. The spitting mermaid was the last thing Amelia saw before she shut her eyes. Charlie and the skateboarder saw the front end of the skateboard just clear the edge of the fountain. Amelia and Bedelia leaned forward toward the mermaid statue to catch her balance. Then she leaned backward as far as she could. She rolled the rim of the fountain in a complete perfect circle. By the time she came around to where she had started, the skateboard had run out of steam. Amelia and Bedelia jumped to the ground. The skateboarders and Charlie stood in stunned silence. Then they all let out a huge whoop and raced toward her. Charlie was the first to reach Amelia and Bedelia. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I guess so. Yep," she said. The skateboarders went wild. They hoisted Amelia and Bedelia onto their shoulders, carried her around and around the fountain. "You're amazing. What a set of moves. How did you do that? Teach us to ride like that. Like now." Amelia and Bedelia laughed. "Okay, but maybe some other day," she said. "We won't put you down until you promise," said the guys. "I promised," said Amelia and Bedelia, but then she panicked. "Where is Pierre?" Charlie pointed at a tree. Pierre was leaping up on the trunk and barking. From a high branch, a chattering squirrel hurled nuts at Pierre's head. Amelia and Bedelia and Charlie ran over and grabbed Pierre's leash. "That was cool," Amelia and Bedelia said. "Charlie, it was amazing that you hung out to Pierre's leash." "Thanks." "No problem," said Amelia and Bedelia. "I know," said Charlie. "Let's go to Pete's Diner to celebrate. Today you can get 2 hot fudge sundaes for the price of 1. "Great," said Amelia and Bedelia. She hoped her knees would stop shaking by the time they got there. Amelia, Bedelia, and Charlie spent the rest of the afternoon at Pete's. Charlie told her all about Pierre and the poodles. Amelia and Bedelia learned that Charlie's mom was passionate about poodles, but that Pierre was Charlie's responsibility. He fed Pierre and walked Pierre and even groomed and bathed Pierre. "My mom thinks I do a great job," Charlie said. She even entered Pierre into the big dog show on Saturday night. "She sure will win first prize." "You will," said Amelia and Bedelia. "Pierre is amazing." But boom went a clap of thunder. It began to rain cats and dogs. Poor Pierre was outside getting soaked. Amelia and Bedelia pleaded with Pete until he let Pierre come inside. Just this once, Charlie parked Pierre under the table in their booth. "Keep him quiet and out of the way," said Pete. "I don't want anyone to step in a poodle." From under the table, Pierre let out a huge yawn. It was a long time before Amelia, Bedelia, and Charlie could stop giggling. That is the end of what I'll be putting into this video, but thank you for watching, and sorry if there was background noise. My puppy's being a little crazy, but thank you all, and I'll see you for the next story. Have a great day.